I am dealing with a heartbreak. And I touch my chest because that's where I feel the heartbreak, in the literal center of my chest, my heart. And that's the key thing, is that I do feel it. Multiple times per day, I'm tuning into the sensation of grief and loss in the center of my chest, because I didn't do this last time I had a heartbreak. All right, let's go in the time machine, some personal history. So I wasn't born with OCD. Some people are, I wasn't. But I was born with something, very, very intense, overwhelming emotions. And when I was 12 years old, I became convinced I was hideously deformed, that my lips were gigantic, that I was horribly ugly. This, I now know, is body dysmorphic disorder, which is essentially a subtype of OCD. But the 12-year-old kid in whatever, the 80s, I'd never heard of this. I'd never heard of OCD. This was just a fact that I was very, very ugly. And this fact defined my existence for years. Every interaction I had with members of the opposite sex, but even friends, family members, was filtered through this reality that I was extremely ugly. Again, deformed. That was the word I used in my mind. And so, unsurprisingly, when I somehow magically got a girlfriend when I was 18, when she dumped me after a few months, this sent me into a total tailspin that wound up with me in a mental hospital for several weeks. So I mention this because that was my first heartbreak, mental hospital. The body dysmorphic disorder lifted shortly after that, largely because, to be blunt, I had enough contrary data, I would say. I was in college and I was getting positive attention from opposite sex students. And I realized, oh, I was wrong. I wasn't hideously deformed. Interestingly, this thing that I thought was the great cause of suffering in my life up to that point, now that it was suddenly gone, that it was like, oh, I'm not a hideous monster, you'd think that I would feel overjoyed, but my overall happiness, satisfaction was unchanged. There was still this profound sense that something is wrong with me, and now I didn't know what it was. And I will say that sense has not entirely gone away. In fact, one of my recent solo shows was called Something is Wrong with Adam Strauss, about exploring that feeling. Anyway, staying focused here on the OCD trajectory. So I had a bunch of relationships, and then I fell in love again, lived with a woman for about 3 years. And when that relationship ended, when I was 29, that's when I developed OCD. And the reason I developed OCD, I believe, because there's no way to be certain, is I had this heartbreak at age 29. I'm 51 now, so this was 22 years ago. And rather than feeling that heartbreak, I went into my head to try to avoid the pain and the loss. And my brain was like, hey, we just have to figure everything out. If we make everything perfect, if we make every decision perfect, then everything will be good and you won't be in pain. So let's do that. Let's get every decision right. And the OCD took over very quickly and very ferociously. And within weeks of this relationship ending, now 22 years ago, I was spending hours and hours every day on trivial decisions: what shirt to wear, what side of the street to walk down, what to eat. Every decision became paralyzing, crippling. I was very, very debilitated. And it's been a long climb out of that, but I have a lot of recovery now. And I think a testament to that recovery is that I did open my heart again. So I hadn't opened my heart fully. I'd had a number of relationships, but they were often more superficial, kind of friends with benefits relationships. Some of them were more significant, but in my mind, it was always like, oh, this person isn't quite right. Occasionally, I would meet someone who I was excited about, and I was like, oh, they're perfect, but then they weren't interested in me, which, of course, to my sort of obsessive mind, just reinforced that they were perfect and that I'd screwed it up. But the bottom line is, for almost 20 years, I had relationships, but I wasn't all in. I was never fully in love. And then I had a mushroom trip. This was May of 2021. And I saw clearly that the reason I hadn't found deep love, and at that point it had been, almost 20 years, was not because I hadn't met the right person, but because I was afraid of the vulnerability. I was afraid of the heartbreak. Of course I was. First time I had my heart broken, mental hospital. Second time, OCD. And so I saw this on this mushroom trip, and I resolved that I was going to say yes to a partnership if the universe presented someone to me. And I was going to say yes, even with doubt, even with worry, even with not being sure if they were the right person. And 4 days later, I met my, now ex-girlfriend. And I did. I opened my heart to her. We fell in love. It was, a profound connection. And now It's over. And yeah, it ended about 6 or 8 months ago. And so, yes, it's unsurprising that the heartbreak is the big trigger for me, or has been with OCD. So it's unsurprising that now that I have this new pain, this deep grief over this person, who I still love, of course. That love doesn't go away in 6 months. It never fully goes away. I wouldn't want it to fully go away. This person is a part of me. But now that I have this grief, the OCD is kind of saying, oh shit, we got to fix this. We got to protect you. So let's make the right decision. Let's go back into your OCD theme. So even though I am consciously choosing to feel the grief, I am more susceptible to OCD now, and there has been more of it, though nothing like what there was years ago. So what am I doing with this? Well, the first thing I'm doing is having compassion for myself. Yeah, this is deep. This is big. I love this person deeply. I wanted to spend my life with this person. That's not going to happen. See, even as I say that, there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe there is some possibility in the future. And there could be, but it's probably not likely. And what I do know for sure is for anything to grow in the future with this person, or with anyone else, really, I have to mourn the loss of what I've lost as fully as I can. So compassion, this is really, really hard. Compassion for myself and compassion for the OCD parts of me. Yeah, they're really scared. This is a big thing. They're really trying to protect me. And the single biggest thing I can do to lessen the OCD and speed the mourning process, and mourning this, grieving this, is the path of healing right now for me, is feeling the sensations in my body, feeling the heartbreak, feeling the loss, feeling the longing, feeling the confusion. And so that's what I'm doing as best I can, not perfectly. And that is why I'm here right now in the woods, because to me, there's something about being in this environment, this timeless environment, this environment where it's not just human concerns and human buildings and the mind, the brain trying to control things, which of course is what humanity largely is at this point in history. Grief is ancient. Grief, I would say, is not even exclusively human. Grief is loss, and everything loses things over time. And so it connects me to that, and it consoles me. It's very, very consoling for me being in nature. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. And I'm going to continue sharing. I'm going to continue sharing the struggles, and I'm going to continue sharing the healing. And I hope this is helpful.